Hey guys, okay, here we are, chapter 4 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is a big chapter, really important. So now that we know Victor is away at the university and he is taking important classes about physiology, chemistry, things related to life, he starts to get into his studies in such a successful way that he is actually recognized. In the second big paragraph, it says, I improved so rapidly that at the end of 2 years, I made some discoveries in the improvement of some chemical instruments, which procured me great esteem and admiration in the university. Very successful student, learning tons, getting recognized, and 2 years have passed, so he's learned a lot. He starts talking about one of the phenomena, next paragraph, which had peculiarly attracted my attention, was the structure of the human frame, foreshadowing, and indeed any animal endued with life. Whence did the principle of life proceed? How does life get created? That's that creation theme that I keep talking about. It was a bold question, he says, and one which has ever been considered as a mystery. And again, that's because God creates life. If you try to take that, you are taking control away from God. Very unpopular in the Christian culture. So later on in that big paragraph, big long paragraph, he says, I became more particularly interested in those branches of natural philosophy which relate to physiology. If you are in a high school, then you have the option to take anatomy and physiology. So anatomy is the frame, the building, the structure, the content, but physiology is like the way that the biology works and living organisms and how everything kind of works together. So he says, unless I had been animated by an almost supernatural enthusiasm, my application would have been irksome and almost intolerable. But he is totally enthusiastic, almost to a supernatural level. But then he kind of shifts and he explains, remember that Victor is talking to Robert on the ship, telling him all about his misadventures. And he says, to examine the causes of life, we must first have recourse to death. So the rest of this paragraph, he's talking all about how people die, what happens to their body, their flesh, their tissues as they die. And so he's studying a whole bunch about death, natural decay and corruption of the human body. He also mentions, and this is important to understand his state of mind, I do not ever remember to have trembled at a tale of superstition or to have feared the apparition of a spirit. Darkness had no effect upon my fancy, and a churchyard was to me merely the receptacle of bodies deprived of life. There's a lot you can read into this. If you are a godly person, then he is almost saying, I'm not godly. I don't tremble at a tale of superstition. If he is saying ghosts and spirits are superstitions, then I did not believe it. I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of a churchyard. I'm not afraid of a graveyard. To me, it is merely a biological place for dead tissue. And that is what Victor is saying. Again, if Henry is not around, remember his best friend, Henry Clerval, who is the moral opposite, Victor has no one to keep him in check. Okay? So he says, now I was led to examine the cause and progress of this decay, not just dead tissue, but how does tissue die and at what progress does it die? So he is forced to spend days and nights in vaults and charnel houses. And if you look that up, you'll see like a morgue type place. I beheld the corruption of death. Mary Shelley, super going gross here. I am looking for the cause, how tissue changes from life to death. And then in the near the end of this big long paragraph, he says, I'm looking for this causation in change from life to death and death to life. Hint, hint. And then a sudden light broke in upon me, a light so brilliant and wondrous and simple. And then he says, but how could it be that I alone should be reserved to discover so astonishing a secret? He's figured out, like, and he gets to it soon, how to animate dead tissue. And he's wondering, how am I the only one out of all these brilliant people in science who have, I'm the only one who knows this. So he goes on then, very important in the next short paragraph, after days and nights of incredible labor and fatigue, I succeeded in discovering the cause of generation and life. Nay, more, I became capable of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter. He is making dead tissue function again. Extremely important. You should flag that page with a sticky note. He's astonished, he's delighted, he's rapturous, he's so happy. And this again goes to that quest for glory and ambition in the next paragraph. The summit of my desires was the most gratifying consummation of my toils. But he also says in the next sentence that all the steps by which I had been progressively led to it were obliterated. I did not keep good records. He's not a very good scientist yet. Usually scientists will keep precise records of exactly what they're doing step by step so that they could go back and do it again. That's how you prove theories, because you have to do things again and again to make sure that they're consistent and accurate and reliable data. So he has not been keeping proper records. So he says all of this creation is within my grasp. And again, the creation theme right there. In the next paragraph, it's like an aside to Robert, like, remember, they're on the ship. I see by your eagerness and wonder and hope and with your eyes that you expect to be informed. Anyway, that's an aside there. In the next paragraph, he starts to think about, like, how should I use my new knowledge? What should I do now? I hesitated a long time concerning the manner in which I should employ it. What should I do? And although I possess the capacity of bestowing animation, yet to prepare a frame for the reception of it, like, what should I put it in? How should I make it work? And then for the next a few sentences or several sentences, he kind of says, maybe I should make something simple. It sure would be smart to start small, right? You would think. Maybe I should attempt the creation of a being like myself, or one of simpler organization. I mean, start simple, right? No, later on in the paragraph, he says, it was with these feelings that I began the creation of a human being. He's not just going to make an animal, a pet, a small being. He's going to make a human. I resolved, contrary to my first intention of making something small, to make the being of a gigantic stature. I'm not just going to make a human. I'm going to make a giant human. That is to say, about 8 feet in height and proportionably large. So, I mean, 8 feet in height, go like an average 6-foot person, go 2 more feet above that. And proportionably large means, like, the shoulders are going to be big. Everything is going to be, it's not just going to be tall and thin. He's going to be a gigantic person. And if you remember back in the very beginning in the letters, when they see a being of gigantic stature being pulled by the sledge, hint, hint, that was the foreshadowing. So here we are finding out this sounds like the creature. He starts collecting and arranging materials, and then he kind of is talking about the quest for glory. It's all about me. A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. It's all about me, me, me. I'm at the center. I want the glory. I want to be recognized, remember. he is really, really going for this, and that's what he had seen in Robert, was that quest for glory, which is the cautionary tale that this is. No father could claim the gratitude of his child so completely as I should deserve theirs. He says a little bit further, he's ignoring his health in his quest for glory. He starts to kind of hint at madness where he's unhealthy. I seemed to have lost all soul or sensation, but for this one pursuit. He knows it's wrong. He knows it's wrong. Who shall conceive the horrors of my secret toil as I dabbled among the unhallowed damps of the grave, or tortured the living animal to animate the lifeless clay? Allusion to Genesis and creation. Taking control away from God in the creation of life, and now it's in his hands in this madness. He says, I had returned to my old habits. I collected bones from the charnel houses and disturbed with profane fingers the tremendous secrets of the human frame. He is doing the grossest of the gross things, collecting all these parts in order to construct a human being. It goes into the isolation theme. In a solitary chamber, or rather cell, at the top of a house, it feels like a prison, separated from all the other apartments by a gallery and staircase, separated again from anything good, anything keeping him in check. I kept my workshop of filthy creation, Mary Shelley's words. So he's separating. It's kind of that heading off into madness with no one to check on him. Much time passes. The summer months passed. The isolation theme. I knew my silence disquieted them. He's talking about his family. He's not keeping in touch with them. If you talk about idealism being that the support of the family to keep him happy, healthy, and in check, he has separated himself. Nobody is around. His friend Henry is not around. I knew well, therefore, what would be my father's feelings. Again, he knows it's wrong. His father had told him that book is sad trash. He's going right back to that. I could not tear my thoughts from my employment, loathsome in itself. He doesn't like what he's doing, and yet he continues to do it without stopping. And he then says, I wished to procrastinate all that related to my feelings of affection until the great object, which swallowed up every habit of my nature, should be completed. I'm not going to connect myself with my family and goodness until this disgusting task is completed. I do not think that the pursuit of knowledge is an exception to the rule. He's trying to justify what he's doing in terms of his studies being beneficial to the human mind. He, in the next paragraph, makes references to worldly conquering and destruction, and then he again, the aside. I forget that I am moralizing in the most interesting part of my tale, and your looks remind me to proceed. He's talking to Robert. And then at the final end of this, he makes reference to an artist, that he feels that he is an artist. I appeared rather like one doomed to slavery, by slavery to toil in the mines or any other unwholesome trade than an artist occupied by his favorite employment. Every night I was oppressed by a slow fever, and I became nervous to a most painful degree. We have signs of madness creeping in. He is not taking care of himself. He says, I shunned my fellow creatures as if I had been guilty of a crime. If you go back in my class, we talked about the Hippocratic Oath at the very beginning. If he is studying to be a doctor and then he's doing all of this creation, this is going against the Hippocratic Oath. It's the do no harm, he's doing harm. This is moral harm. This is would commonly be accepted as very much wrong. So he sees that he's kind of falling apart, but he can't stop himself. And again, if you look, every time it talks about fate or his progress here, he does not, in reflecting on it, take any responsibility for doing something that is bad. It's like, I was destined to do this. Nothing could stop me. I'm on this path of destruction. But remember, free will. So he is choosing this path on his own. Anyhow, that's the end of chapter 4, and very exciting. So we'll see you on the next one.